Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, over 8,600 Israelis are now infected with the coronavirus, and the death toll has risen to more than 50. Israel prepares for a full lockdown as Passover approaches. And if you're looking for love in the time of corona, we may have the solution for you. Well, over 8,600 Israelis are now infected with the coronavirus, and the death toll has risen to 55. The ministry says that 141 of those infected are in serious condition, with 107 on ventilators. And another 191 are moderately ill, but the rest are thankfully exhibiting light symptoms. Now, as cases continue to rise, health ministry officials are now saying that Israel is likely to be headed to a national lockdown on Passover night this Wednesday evening. The 7-day Jewish festival is traditionally celebrated in large groups, but Interior Minister Aryeh Deri is warning Israelis that anyone who is caught driving on Passover could be stopped by police. This comes as the Israeli government is already set to enforce a tighter closure over 8 cities and 15 ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods across Jerusalem to stem the spread of the coronavirus. Now, right now, the cities that will likely be cordoned off include Tiberias, Elad, Migdal HaEmek, Beitar Ilit, Ashkelon, Or Yehuda, Modi'in Ilit, and parts of Beit Shemesh. It's also still unclear what the new guidelines for these restricted zones will be, although it is likely that a broader military presence will enforce the restrictions. It's also reported that Jerusalem will be divided into 8 regions, with residents only allowed to shop for essential goods in their own sections. The IDF is now set to deliver 1,000 tons of food to needy residents in the already sealed-off ultra-Orthodox city of Bnei Brak. And the delivery will come just before Passover and requires hundreds of Israeli soldiers to work days and nights to get the food to the people who need it in time. The Israeli economy, of course, has taken a massive hit as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, leaving many fearful about where they're going to get their next meal. And now the Bank of Israel has just slashed its rate to 0.1%, its interest rate, to help weather the crisis. Israel's GDP has contracted by 5% in just the first quarter of 2020. Now, following multiple changing reports around the world, the Israeli Ministry of Health now requires every single person in Israel to wear a face mask when out in public. But how effective are these masks going to be? Will they really protect us? And if so, why aren't we told to wear them to begin with? Well, joining us with some insight is Professor Jonathan Gershoni from the Department of Immunology and Virology in Tel Aviv University. Now, why is it important to wear a face mask? Should all people be required to wear them?
Well, actually, we have to separate the population into 2 groups. Those that are infected and those that don't want to get infected, that they're healthy. A face mask is very effective in preventing the passing on of the virus. So certainly all those individuals that are infected should be wearing a face mask. And this is very important.
Now, there are a variety of different types of face masks. There's the KN95 medical masks, simple fabric, home masks, disposable paper masks. What is the best mask to use? And is wrapping your face with a material like a scarf effective?
So once again, we have to try to understand what is the purpose of the mask. If it's in order to prevent the passing on of the virus, that is to say, people who are infected wear the mask, it is sufficient to wear a surgical paper mask, cloth, any one of those, because the virus is spread through micro droplets. And if these masks will ultimately be able to prevent the spread of whatever, coughing, sneezing, and so on and so forth. The other masks, such as the N95, which is very often now being mentioned, is a much more effective mask, and it should be worn by physicians and health caretakers that are being exposed more readily to the secretions and the infectious materials from infected people.
Now, I understand that some of these masks are only effective for a short amount of time. How often do we need to be replacing them?
Well, most of the masks, especially the ones like surgical masks, should be replaced certainly every time you use them and for durations no longer than a few hours. However, the other masks, the more professional masks, can be used for longer periods of time. However, they too need to be replaced periodically.
But can improper use of a mask be dangerous for your health?
Well, we've seen various YouTubes put out, let's say by the CDC and WHO, illustrating how to put on a mask and how to take it off. You should regard the outer surface of the mask as potentially being contaminated,
Right.
and therefore you should make sure not to touch it, and if so, wash your hands with soap and water.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us with really this informative information. So many people are confused about whether or not they should be using masks in the first place. So thank you again.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Now, Blue and White Chairman Benny Gantz's window to form an official government is drawing to a close, but with unity talks reportedly nearing a conclusion, Gantz says he'll be requesting an extension. The first mandate to form a coalition ends April 13th, in the middle of the Passover holiday. But neither side of the aisle expects a signed deal until after the holiday ends, at which time we may all be in lockdown too. So Benny Gantz of the Blue and White Party is now asking for more time from President Rivlin. And Rivlin says he'll be considering the request. Gantz's party and Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud have been engaging in serious negotiations for over a week now towards a broad unity government. And if formed, it would include the right-wing and religious bloc as well as members of the now divided Labor and Blue and White parties. Though the members of both Blue and White and Labor who are in talks with the right are also now planning a merger on their own. But back to the unity talks, just a few last issues need to be worked out. Among them, Israel's future policy on annexations in the Jordan Valley and in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank. The Likud has been pushing to annex Israeli settlements in line with the Trump administration's peace plan within a few months of forming a government. Blue and White, on the other hand, has been advocating a longer delay, but is now reportedly willing to bend on that issue. So the latest problem now threatening to blow up negotiations is the Likud's demand for veto power on the appointment of judges too. Finally, in the latest tug of war in the government negotiations, Gantz is reportedly threatening Prime Minister Netanyahu with legislation barring politicians under indictment from forming a government. All Netanyahu would have to do to prevent this is sign a coalition deal within the hour. And now joining us with more political analysis, please welcome Gideon Israel, founder and president of the Jerusalem Washington Center. Now, Benny Gantz's mandate for a coalition is set to end on April 13th, and it is far from reaching an agreement with Netanyahu. Why do you think that they're just unable to move forward in negotiations, and what are the unresolved issues here?
Well, one potential reason is that Netanyahu is actually trying to run out the clock so that the mandate goes back to him. And if that happens, he'll be in a much stronger position to set up a government, a right-wing government, as the polls show that if they would go to fourth elections, the right would really crush the left. The second thing is that some of the things that are in dispute are whether Israel will apply sovereignty over the Jordan Valley and also other parts of Judea and Samaria. That's one of the main issues that still is unresolved.
Now, there are rumors about an upcoming union of the Blue and White Party with the Labor Party. Why did Gantz and Amir Peretz decide to unite at this point?
Because if they are both by themselves, then Netanyahu could hypothetically form a government without the Blue and White Party. It would be enough if he has Orly Levy and two people from the Labor and Hendel and Hauser, which would give him significant leverage against in negotiations with Blue and White, and also it would allow him to pass decisions without Blue and White's consent. So by them creating a bloc, unifying, it gives them more power in their negotiations with Netanyahu. And once the government is formed, if it is formed, in terms of voting.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the health minister, though, for a second. Should Litzman be fined or jailed for willful endangerment? I mean, should he be removed from office? The fact that he broke his own ministry's rules is a bit, scary.
Well, whether you like it or not, the way politicians works in Israel is coalition politics. So at this point, I think Netanyahu, for his bloc, he needs the United Torah Judaism. That's Litzman's party, and obviously he needs the Shas party, so as well as Yamina. So I don't. It's coalition politics, so I don't think
Right.
he's going to be able to. He's going to take too much of a staunch stance against Litzman because he just can't do it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. As the world muddles through this terrible crisis, many are busy playing the blame game. And in Israel in particular, with disproportionately high infection rates, the ultra-Orthodox communities are getting the most of it. But Israeli leaders are now condemning the wild incitement against Haredim. And analysts say that instead they're victims of poor information about the virus.
The government of Israel is now getting ready to shut down nearly 24 ultra-Orthodox enclaves across the country, including hundreds of thousands of people. And it's true that the majority of new coronavirus cases seem to be coming from the ultra-Orthodox or Haredi populations, especially as many, including Health Minister and UTJ Party Chief Yaakov Litzman, have ignored new government regulations and have since become infected. Some Haredim have even assaulted medical personnel and police while conducting tests and enforcing closures, leading to widespread anti-Haredi sentiments which Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Rivlin have condemned. But why are the Haredim seemingly ignoring restrictions that can save their lives? Well, for the most part, they're not. They just weren't told the full horror story. And many are blaming the Haredi political leadership for failing to fill them in. In most ultra-Orthodox communities, residents are more or less isolated from the general secular and non-Jewish public. And on top of that, there is rarely access to mainstream television, computers, internet, or smartphones to keep impurities away. So the result is that even after receiving reports from the government and health officials, community rabbis had very poor methods of distributing this information, let alone describing how dire the information was. That being said, religious party lawmakers, including both United Torah Judaism and Shas chiefs Yaakov Litzman and Aryeh Deri, have also made poor calls amidst this crisis, including fighting against city quarantines and synagogue closures. And now, Litzman and his wife are both infected, and much of Israel's top leadership is in quarantine.
All right. Now, Arab Israelis account for more than 20% of Israeli medical staff, but doctors and nurses from the Arab sector in Israel are now standing up to protest against the discrimination against them. And joining us on Skype is one of the members of this campaign, Dr. Al-Salan Abu Mugh. So tell us about this protest. What message are demonstrators trying to send, and why now?
Oh, hello, Natasha, and thank you for having me on. The bottom line from this campaign is to message that our people are part of integral life in Israel, not also as a doctor and pharmacist and nurses, also they're working in high tech, they're working in industry and in public transportation. And they have the full right to be represented in the Israeli Knesset in a respectful way and without calling them a terrorist or a pro-terrorism. That's the bottom line from this campaign, which was made by activists under the name of "Did you see the horizon lately?"
Mm-hmm. So this is largely about representation in the government, right? So how many people are taking part in this protest?
Well, it's actually more than 5,000 signs from doctor and other medical staff, and we have more than 500,000 shares of different videos and different photos. And probably most of them are agreeing with our says.
Is this largely because we saw a much stronger, Arab Israeli showing in the polling booths, that now we're seeing a protest and demonstrations come out like this? Do you think that is what is contributing to this, protest being held right now?
Well, I think this thing has been escalating recently, not because of the corona outbreak, but also because in the last Israeli elections, we have seen and we have hearing a lot of bad calls that Arabian citizens are pro-terrorism and stuff like that. The last thing that you want to hear about yourself after finishing a hard day that you are a tourist. So I think the corona outbreak make this more clear that there is a harmony, there is a peaceful environment between Arabs and Jews inside the healthcare system, and it should be like this on a daily basis outside the healthcare system.
Do you think that representatives of the Joint Arab List should be given positions in the Netanyahu and Gantz unity government?
Well, I will leave this political issues for Arab representatives, but I think they should do what they think they should do.
All right, that's a very diplomatic answer. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess the last thing that I just want to ask you is what the response has been like from the public.
I think we're getting quite nice responses and a lot of comments and a lot of sharings.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
You're most welcome.
All right, now isolation at home can be really hard, and many of us find it easier to pass the time because we have smartphones, smart TVs, and video call technology. But what about our elderly who not only already suffer from higher rates of loneliness, but are also not the most tech savvy? Well, in a way, there is an app for that, and ILTV's Nittany Manson has the details.
We live in a digital age, and it's becoming more and more important to keep the aging population in the technical loop. Well, a new project is doing just that, and at a time when it's needed the most. Now, up until just a few weeks ago, Israeli entrepreneurs Gabi Arnovitz and Uriel Shuraki have been teaching smartphone classes to the elderly across several brick-and-mortar locations in Jerusalem, and they've been operating under their project Made in JLM. But then with lockdowns and social isolation orders coming into play, they had to get creative. So Arnovitz and Shuraki teamed up with Shuraki's cousin, David Suraki, who helped them develop an online course. And this course, which is offered free of charge, has already attracted over 1,000 students in just 2 weeks. The course consists of a series of Hebrew videos that are uploaded to a dedicated YouTube channel. Students receive the links via a WhatsApp group that you can join off the course's website. And the lessons each include a sample phone screen with an easy-to-follow direction and cursors. And so far, the online class is covering how to work in Google Drive, Facebook, WhatsApp, Zoom, and more.
All right, now it's no secret that singles sometimes feel especially alone on the holidays, but this year, because of the Ministry of Health guidelines, single people will have to stay apart from their families and friends too. So how can they cope with the mental difficulties at times that are supposed to be happier? Well, joining us on Skype, we're joined by Israeli psychologist Dr. Camila Folkosh-Levan with some answers. So why do the holidays evoke difficult feelings like sadness and loneliness when they're supposed to be happy?
Yes, so it's a big problem in general for many people because exactly what you mentioned, it's supposed to be happy and there's this expectation of everyone's a couple and there's a family and almost like a cultural pressure in a way. And it makes it very difficult for people that, first of all, they might be single by choice or single that they didn't just happen to find a partner yet, or maybe they lost their partner. There are many stories behind everyone, each one of our lives, yes, including why someone's married or not married or with a partner or single, yes. But the sad or interesting thing is that when a single person comes into a group of people, including their own family, insular family, often the discussion is surrounded by why are you single in essence, and how are you
especially
single?
In Israel.
Exactly. And what can you do to not be single? As if it's some kind of a flaw of a human to be single. And it's not, because originally we are all single. And at some point, someone has decided or not decided, or it works out or whatever, however, whoever looks at it, that we decide to be with somebody. And even that is not for sure. That's for the rest of our lives or not. Like nobody knows. It would be very important to take this time of Corona, especially to reflect on ourselves and how we also talk to others. And to welcome those that are single and talk to them, about themselves.
And not about their
lives.
status, their relationship status. All right, so I guess what I would like to know is just, what advice do you give to single people right now who still are feeling lonely despite everything that you just said?
I think it's very important to reach out to others. We have Zoom. It would be very nice if someone wanted to, I know there are some people that are already, that I'm assuming more and more are doing this, but it would be very good if someone would take upon themselves to either reach out to the friends that you already have that are single, not only, but also specifically that are single, or maybe to put on Facebook or Instagram a call for people who would want to join a seder through Zoom or through WhatsApp. Even some of the Rabbanim said that for specifically for Corona, Zoom is an option for holidays. Some believe it is, some believe it isn't. There is a discussion about it, but what I'm saying is that there is that option to maybe do the Chag and do join and still
the power of Zoom. The power of Zoom. All right, Camila, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody enjoy the holidays. All right, now.
Amen. Thank you.
Now, speaking of being single, if you're looking for love here in Israel but are finding options a bit limited because you can't leave your house, well, a new Facebook group may be your saving grace. ILTV's Nittany Manson, of course, has the story.
Hey,
Hello.
Natasha. So this is actually a story that is very close to my heart, I have to say, because being one of those single people stuck in home isolation can be kind of a bummer.
I know. I can't imagine. I mean, my husband may drive me crazy sometimes, but I still cannot imagine isolating alone. Thankfully, there are dogs, though, right?
Dogs are our saving grace.
Yes,
It's not easy. And that's why I'm so thankful for people like this. A group of 6 friends from Israel and the US were on Zoom one day, and they came up with this idea to put together a Facebook group for Jewish singles looking for love during quarantine called Corona Crush, and they've actually been able to make some matches.
That is amazing. So how popular is this group right now?
Well, they got over 3,000 people in just a week, all of them in their late 20s, early 30s, mostly from Israel and New York, a few from other places as well. And it's just been growing. I mean, as of now, there are over 6,000 people in the group with one more who added today.
I love that. I think I know who joined that group as well, Nittany.
I figured, why not? I can do some undercover work. And I was not disappointed. Even their description just completely pulled me in.
Okay, tell us what it is.
Well, it starts off by saying, guys, have you got the corona blues? Are you feeling COVID done? Fed up with the lockdown, suffering from quarantine.
Amazing.
It says, well, ladies and gents, it's time to find some that magic someone. Don't isolate, it's time to iso-date.
Iso-date? Oh my gosh.
Then they go on to say some more things about writing about yourself because, quote, love could be just around the corner, and if not, well, the end of the world is. So
That's wonderful to hear. All right, so has this worked? I mean, have any dates actually come out of it?
Well, according to the admins, yes, there have been quite a few people who have arranged online Zoom dates. So, I mean, this could really be something. This one guy actually posted a hilarious video in this group. It's just full of gems. Take a look.
So, Rachel, I want you to know that if you pick me, I will like you, I will love you, I will isolate and confine, and I will shackle you up, and I will lock you down. But first, let me tell you a little bit about me. When it comes to cooking, I would say I'm more of a unique chef. I guess you could say I never fully grew out of college. I mean, I never really finished college. It means that I'm really good at making ramen noodles. I can make ramen on the stovetop. There's dorm-style ramen. There's mopped ramen, washing machine ramen. There's toilet ramen. Little pro tips, sometimes I like to age my ramen under the sink, family recipe, grandma's ramen. But more, almost done. I gotta admit, I was never really that good at holding down a job, but let's be honest, jobs were so 2019, am I right?
That's just the best video I've seen in Corona season. And this guy is single. Ladies, he clearly was reaching out to some Rachel in the group, but a catch, right?
Total catch. But yes, I have joined the group. I will definitely have to be creative to stand out.
Yeah, you will. Yes, you will. All right, Nittany, thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Pleasure.
It was the most important part of our show. All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. It's a pleasant 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius in Tel Aviv today with partly cloudy skies, and tomorrow is expected to be sunny and warm, although the temperature will be a bit cooler with a high of 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius. And now before we go, let's take a look at what is going viral in Israel on tubing. I don't understand how people have the time to come up with these entire traps. I absolutely love them. I can watch these videos all day long. But I mean, where do you find the time to do that and the creativity? I don't think I could handle it. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.63 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.